Hey, fifth grade. I hope this finds you well on this day that I did not expect to wake up to see something that, I'm not really a fan of. What is happening with the snow? I did not want snow today, but it is okay. The sun is slowly starting to come out. So I hope this finds you well, and maybe even getting outside into the snow today. Today I'm going to read a little something to you, but I also want to let you know that please keep an eye out on Google Classroom. It was really great to see you guys on Monday. So my goal is to have 2 Google Classroom meetings a week. Be on the lookout in Google Classroom for when those are. Also, I will be sending emails to parents, so just know that that is coming. Yesterday I headed to the school, so we were given a short amount of time during different time frames so that we couldn't really see anyone or talk to anyone to keep everyone safe. So I went to the classroom yesterday and I did grab a few things that I will be kind of presenting and using with you over the next several weeks for our teaching and our communicating. It was definitely strange to not see you guys in there. It was definitely, just kind of a hard thing of not being in there. So keep an eye out for emails for you from Mr. Newcoop of when you guys can go in and get your personal belongings, okay? So be patient with that. We are under strict guidelines for the state as well as through the school. So just know you will have the opportunity to go in and get your personal items. Just be patient with that, okay? So I have a book that I'm going to read to you, really a story out of a book that I'm going to read to you today. So I bought this for Lexi and Josie a couple years ago, and it is called Think Positive for Kids is what it is. So Chicken Soup for the Soul, which is a series of different types of books that they actually have things in to talk about different things, strength, encouragement, positivity, things like that. So I found a story today that I'm going to read to you. And I just thought it was kind of fitting because I'll tell you why after I read it, actually. So I'm going to read it and then I'll tell you why I actually selected it. So it's called The New Kid. I was a happy child and loved school. I couldn't wait to get there every day and be with my friends. Most of us had gone to the same school since first grade, and many of us lived in the same neighborhood. It was an old school with a lot of character. I still remember the smell of the cleaner that they used on the floors. I remember how huge the playground seemed and the good times that we all had on it. One year, the city decided that our school was just too old and they needed to rezone, which is kind of restructure, the school district. As a result, many of the students from our old building were sent to other schools, depending on which neighborhood that they lived in. I cannot remember the name of my new school, but I always remembered how the year began. The new school was located in a neighborhood which was nicer than mine. Our homes were small and old. Our streets were narrow, and some of them had not really been paved in many years. Our new school was in a fancy neighborhood with large brick homes, and the kids wore more expensive clothes and shoes than at my old school. I felt very self-conscious. I was miserable at school every day. I hated going. I felt like everyone was secretly talking about me and making fun of me. I became very shy and really only talked when I had to. That was normally when the teacher asked me a question. I even hid behind the bushes on the playground so that I wouldn't have to play with the other kids in my class. I was sure they were mean and they didn't like me. One day we had to bring home miniature floats to school. They were the kind of floats that you see in parades. Each child's float represented a different state. When I walked into class, a group of children were gathered around my float and they were laughing and talking. I knew they were making fun of my float because I had to make it out of a Kleenex box, Q-tips, and tissue paper. Some of the other floats were fancy and well made. Mine looked pretty cheap and not so great next to theirs. I was pretty devastated and hurt. Many of my old friends from my old school were also in my new school. I slowly began to notice that they were not having the same problems adjusting to the new school like I was. They acted the same, which they had always had. They dressed in the same clothes, but unlike me, they had developed new friendships. I asked them if they liked the new school, and they all really did. They could not understand why I didn't feel the same way they did. It seemed like I was the only one who felt like an outsider. Then one day, the girl that sat next to me in class leaned over and said, Your float is so pretty. Everyone's talking about how clever you are and that you obviously made it and your parents did not. I just wanted you to know." She gave me a big smile and I smiled back. The person in front of her turned around and agreed with her thoughts on my float and that it was pretty. I had been wrong. If I was wrong about the float, what else was I really wrong about? That day I sat there with those same girls at the lunch table. Much to my amazement, they were eager to talk to me. They said they had asked me many questions about my family, my old school, and things that I liked. Lunch was quickly over. I went home that day feeling much happier. It was much easier to go to school the next morning. I had made 2 new friends. They invited me to join them in the playground, and through them, I began to make other friends. I was invited to birthday parties. I was accepted to be part of the class, and I was no longer self-conscious or shy. I was just really my old self again, and I was happier. I realized that my only obstacle to being happy had been my own imagination and thoughts. My classmates weren't mean. They just didn't know me. They were just unsure how to make friends too. My float opened up the door for a real conversation with them. I've always been grateful to those 2 girls who showed me kindness and included me in their circle of friends. It made me a stronger person, and I never again felt like an outcast. Being the new kid can be hard. I never forgot that and always tried to be the person who welcomes new kids or people and to make sure I showed them the ropes along the way. I made a lot of great friends that way. So I chose to select that small reading because I wanted to, as I was reading it, I thought of you guys. You're such a great group of kids of welcoming in and expanding. You know, at Cross Creek, we change different classes and we do different things. So, next year with you moving on to middle school, which you're not going yet, you're still with me. You're still my 5th grade team. You're going to have classes with different kids that maybe you haven't had in classes with ever or in a long time. So I want you to keep that in mind, that maybe when someone is being a little more quiet or just a little standoffish, perhaps they're just being a little shy because they're just unsure what to do. So always try to be the person that reaches out to others. So that was my little clip today on being positive and being the best version of you. So I miss you dearly. Keep an eye out for an email from me to parents and in Google Classroom. I look forward to seeing you at our next Google Meet, and have a great day. The sun's starting to come out, even though it is still snowing. So try to get out and enjoy that, okay? Take care. We'll talk to you soon.